Hey everybody, I'm here. I did a summary of the facts of abortion. I worked with Ian. He did a great job. Um, Here are some of the facts that we learned about abortion. I really want to start with the reasons. One of the reasons that really stuck out to me was the relational issues. Abortions are being pushed on women more so today because of men. We often think that this is a women's decision and it's entirely their issue to deal with, but men are pushing it more and more today, and I think it's really abstaining from their responsibilities as fathers, which has really caused a big problem in America, and that's hurt a lot of children, obviously, through the abortions. That was the biggest reason for me that stuck out as to why women are getting abortions today. We want to look at the legal background. We know Roe v. Wade happened. We want to look at Jane Roe. Jane Roe was, excuse me, the woman at the center of the abortion debate. Her real name is Norma McCorvey, and to this day, she's actually saved and a huge pro-life woman, believe it or not. Ian talked about some of the information on Roe v. Wade, and I don't want to double track on what he said, but to see the woman who was at the heart of it say that she felt used and like a pawn in a big game, and now to be so pro-life, it's kind of flipped the whole debate on its head. Abortion laws in America have become more and more progressive till, like Ian said, there was the one in New York recently passed, and that's very open to abortion, late-term abortion. There's one for debate in Vermont and in Virginia now. And while those legislatures are viewing abortion as almost a necessity to be enshrined in law, America as a whole has actually become more pro-life as the days go on. We also want to look at some of the techniques that happen. We have a saline solution, which is the most popular. There's pills for women to take. They can take out the baby afterwards. There's usually a suction technique where the baby is killed in the womb by a pill or the solution, and they'll suck the baby out limb by limb. There's a recent movie on Richard Gosnell, the abortionist, and that really goes into detail about showing some of these methods. It's inhumane at the very least, so that's a very common one. This is just difficult to talk about, to be honest with me. Hysterotomy is another one that Ian talked about, and I want to talk about partial birth abortion, where the baby is born alive, partially born, and as the baby's head comes out, they crush the skull. And this, as we would like to think, is infanticide, is still proposed today. Even President Obama, when he was in his term as Senate, in the Iowa Senate, voted for partial birth abortion. Being for abortion does not necessarily mean that you have to be for such type of inhumane practices, but some people still are. And that's going on even to this day, even though a lot of America is changing its view on abortion. If we're looking at some psychological damage, we're going to look at dangers of abortion here. Psychological damage is huge. One of the most underreported figures. Some Christian organizations like Birthright, they're pro-life, they report on these things. Regret, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, suicidal ideation. These are things that no doctor is telling a woman when she comes to a Planned Parenthood, or no medical professional. And these are things that women really have to deal with afterwards. I mean, they don't understand that it's not really just a medical procedure, it's also a psychological one. When we talk about how safe abortion is, it's really only safe in medical terms to the woman. The baby dies, and that's the reality of abortion. More laws have been put in place to help women. Some states are putting in laws to make sure that it takes place at a medical facility. It has to happen within a certain amount of miles of a doctor or an emergency room. That's been up for debate. It's still up for debate at the Supreme Court. They haven't really touched it. It's working its way up. The goal of a lot of conservatives and a lot of people, their passion is to see it come before the Supreme Court within the next few years, or at least if President Trump can have another conservative justice on the Supreme Court to swing that back in a pro-life part of the debate. Finally, like Ian said, there's so many dangers that can happen to a woman. There are very few chances of it being life-threatening, since it's kind of moved out of the back alley so to speak, from the 60s now, but still women can have tears to their uterus. There's blood clots, which are life-threatening. There's infection, which can be very difficult. Um, and there's just general injuries that happen in surgery. Sometimes things go wrong. Sometimes things mess up, and it can be very dangerous to a woman, to any person. They say the only type of minor surgery is the one you're not having. And such an invasive surgery during something, a very natural process of life, can be very damaging to a woman. And finally, who gets abortion? 125 babies are aborted worldwide every day. Every day. In only about a week, we abort 1 million babies a day. Actually, in New York City alone, more African American babies are aborted every day than born. And that's a shocking fact and a scary fact. The good news is abortions are going down in America. They're less and less likely. And I think that has to do a lot with a lot of these help centers that are coming along and not just being there through birth, but being there after birth. Because it's very easy to tell a woman to have a baby. It's much more difficult to help a woman take care of the baby, especially if they're single or young or being pressured by someone who's not very helpful in the situation. And as Ian said, minorities and poor people are targeted, almost targeted, by these organizations. Margaret Sanger, the woman who founded Planned Parenthood, was as racist as they come. She founded it to basically sterilize the black race, which is a scary thought that this organization is idolized today. It's horrible. It should go out of business. That's opinion, not fact, but it's fact. Those are the facts of the abortion debate. This is kind of difficult to me. I know for myself and my wife, we have a real passion to adopt later in life. So we hope that that's going to be a passion of our church when we have it one day too. We want to enable families to adopt. Those are some of the abortion facts that we went over. Thanks again to Ian. He did a great job. I appreciate all you guys' work.